Welcome, everyone. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that is more than just a tale of revenge. It is the epic of a 30-year-old lonely battle. My name is Olivia Montgomery. As I sit here today on the balcony of this grand estate, watching the sunset over these endless vines with a glass of Cabernet in my hand, my mind drifts back to that cursed night exactly 30 years ago. Napa Valley is a dreamland for tourists today, a place of luxury and refined taste. But for me, for a long time, it was the beginning of a deep, suffocating darkness. My father, Edward Montgomery, was the most respected and successful winemaker in this region. Our Montgomery estate wasn't just a business, it was the fruit of generations of blood, sweat, and passion. My father was grooming me to be his successor. Since I was a little girl, I knew every vine, every leaf, and the specific taste of every grape. My father used to say, "Olivia, this soil is our family. It's our soul. Never let go of it." But a venomous presence had slithered into my father's life, his business partner and so-called childhood friend, Victor. Victor was a man of polished manners. He always wore expensive Italian suits, and a warm, charismatic smile never left his face. But behind that smile lay a terrifying greed that none of us saw coming. Then came that stormy night in 1994. I was just a 20-year-old girl, full of dreams and innocence. Suddenly, the news broke. My father had died in a mysterious car accident. His car had veered off a steep mountain road. The police called it a tragic accident, but my heart refused to believe it. My father was an expert driver. He knew those roads like the back of his hand. Before I could even process the grief, right after the funeral, Victor showed up in our living room. He didn't come to offer condolences. He threw a stack of legal documents onto the coffee table. The warmth in his eyes was gone, replaced by the cold, ruthless gaze of a predator. He said, "Olivia, your father sold this entire estate to me a week before he died. This vineyard, this house, it's all mine now. You have no right to be here anymore." I screamed. I cried. I knew my father loved this vineyard more than his own life. He would never have sold it. But Victor had the support of the city's most powerful lawyers and a set of forged signatures that looked hauntingly real. Victor didn't just kick me out of my home. He framed me for theft, accusing me of stealing family heirlooms, and used his influence to run me out of town. That day, as I sat on a bus leaving Napa Valley, I looked out the window at our vines for the last time. I whispered to myself, "Victor, I will come back. And the day I do, I will tear down your empire of lies with my own hands. You took my father's life. I will take everything you have." I fled California and ended up in New York. I had no one. My pockets were nearly empty, containing only a few crumpled dollars. I lived in a tiny, damp basement apartment that smelled of old pipes. On winter nights, when the heater failed, I would wrap myself in my father's old wool coat and sob until I fell asleep. But those tears didn't make me weak. They forged me into something harder, something sharper. During the day, I worked as a waitress in a busy Italian restaurant in Manhattan. And at night? At night, I studied until my eyes burned. I knew that to defeat a man as powerful as Victor, I had to be smarter, more skilled, and more connected than he was. I enrolled in chemistry and business management. My goal was to learn every chemical nuance of winemaking and every ruthless tactic of the corporate world. 30 years. For 3 decades, I built myself up piece by piece. I traveled to Europe under an assumed name, working in the legendary vineyards of France and Italy. From the gravelly soils of Bordeaux to the sun-kissed hills of Tuscany, I mastered the ancient secrets of the vine. I became a world-renowned enologist, a wine scientist. People in the industry knew me as Madame V. No one knew that the V stood for vengeance. But my heart never left Napa. I kept a close eye on Victor. He had become the self-proclaimed king of Napa Valley. He turned our sacred, artisanal vineyard into a massive, commercial factory. He prioritized profit over quality, using heavy chemicals to force the land to produce more than it was meant to. He was treating the earth like a machine, but he forgot one thing: you can't make great wine with just money. You need a soul-deep connection with the soil. Around 2024, word started reaching me. Victor's wine quality was plummeting. The soil was dying from his greed. His business was crumbling under the weight of massive debts and poor management. He was on the verge of bankruptcy. I realized that nature was finally exacting its own toll. And that was my cue to return. I took all the wealth I had accumulated over 30 years, partnered with a group of high-stakes anonymous investors, and formed a shell company. My goal was to buy Victor's debt and eventually his estate, without him ever knowing it was me. I wanted him to realize who had taken everything from him only at the very last moment. In May 2024, I finally set foot in Napa Valley again. As I stepped off the plane, the familiar scent of damp earth and oak hit me, sending a shiver down my spine. I stayed in a small, quiet cottage owned by an elderly woman named Mrs. Higgins, keeping my identity a closely guarded secret. Mrs. Higgins had worked in our vineyard when I was a child. Mrs. Higgins was nearly blind now, but her memory was as sharp as a diamond. One afternoon, as we sat on her porch, she called me into her room. She pulled out an old, weathered wooden box from under her bed. "Child," she whispered, her voice trembling, "do you know where Olivia is? 2 days before Edward died, he gave me this diary. He told me to keep it safe. He said Victor was trying to kill him and that all the proof was inside." My heart stopped. I took the diary with shaking hands. The pages were yellow and brittle, but my father's handwriting was unmistakable. I began to read. Every page was a cry for help. My father had documented how he had discovered Victor's massive embezzlement scheme. Victor had been laundering money through the estate, and when my father confronted him, Victor began to blackmail him. The most chilling entry was from the night of the accident. My father wrote, "If I don't make it home tonight, know that Victor tampered with my brakes. I've hidden the original deed and the records of his crimes in the hollow of the great oak at the edge of the North Ridge. Olivia, if you ever read this, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. Take back what is yours." I couldn't breathe. My father hadn't sold the estate. He had been murdered. And he had left me the weapon I needed to destroy Victor. That night, under the cover of a moonless sky, I hiked to the North Ridge. The great oak stood like a silent sentinel, its branches reaching out like gnarled fingers. I found the hollow my father had described. Deep inside, wrapped in waterproof plastic, was a thick folder. It contained the original, untampered deed of the Montgomery estate and a ledger detailing every single one of Victor's illegal transactions over the years. I held the papers to my chest and wept. Not out of sadness, but out of a cold, burning resolve. Victor thought he had buried the truth 30 years ago. He didn't know that the truth had just grown roots. The day of the great auction arrived. Victor's empire was being sold off to the highest bidder to settle his astronomical debts. The auction was held at the historic Napa Valley Opera House. All the elite of California were there, the same people who had turned their backs on me 30 years ago. Victor was there, looking older, his face lined with the stress of his impending downfall, yet he still carried that arrogant smirk. He believed a friendly investment group, my shell company, was going to buy the estate and keep him on as a consultant. He thought he was being saved. I walked into the room wearing a sharp, charcoal gray suit and a wide-brimmed hat that partially obscured my face. I sat in the very back, silent. The bidding for the Montgomery estate started at $50 million. The room was buzzing. Victor sat in the front row, whispering to his lawyers. As the price climbed to $80 million, the other bidders started dropping out. Finally, the auctioneer called out, $90 million, going once, going twice. I raised my paddle. $150 million, I said, my voice clear and cold, echoing through the silent hall. The entire room turned to look at me. Victor froze. He didn't recognize me at first, but the sound of my voice seemed to trigger a distant, uncomfortable memory. He stood up, squinting at me. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice cracking. I didn't answer. I just looked at the auctioneer. $150 million. Cash. Sold, the auctioneer shouted, slamming the gavel down. To the lady in the back. Victor rushed toward me, his face red with a mix of desperation and curiosity. "Thank you," he stammered, trying to regain his charm. "You've saved the legacy. I look forward to working with your group to manage the transition. I slowly took off my hat and looked him straight in the eye. The color drained from his face instantly. His mouth hung open, but no sound came out. "I'm not here to work with you, Victor," I said, every word like a shard of ice. "I'm here to evict you." "Olivia," he whispered, his voice trembling with pure terror. It can't be. You're dead. You disappeared." "I didn't disappear, Victor. I grew up. I learned. And I waited," I said, stepping closer so only he could hear. "I know about the breaks, Victor. I know about the ledger. And I have the original deed. You didn't just lose the auction today. You lost your freedom." The aftermath was a whirlwind of justice. I didn't just take the estate. I handed the folder I found in the oak tree to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The evidence was overwhelming. The forged signatures, the money laundering, and the entries in my father's diary provided enough leads for the authorities to reopen the case of my father's death. As it turned out, Victor hadn't acted alone. He had bribed a local mechanic to tamper with the car and a crooked lawyer to verify the forged documents. Under the pressure of a federal investigation, they both turned on him to save themselves. I watched from the gates of the Montgomery estate as the police led Victor away in handcuffs. He looked small, broken, and pathetic. The man who had once loomed over my life like a giant was now nothing more than a common criminal. As he was being pushed into the back of the police car, he looked at me one last time. There was no charm left, only a hollow, haunting realization of his own ruin. "Why?" he croaked. "Because you forgot the most important rule of this valley, Victor," I replied. "You can't cheat the soil. It always remembers who its true family is." The following months were spent restoring the estate. I fired the contractors who had been poisoning the land and brought in the best organic viticulturists in the world. We spent a year just healing the soil, letting it breathe, letting it remember what it felt like to be loved. Today, the Montgomery estate is once again the crown jewel of Napa Valley. But it's different now. It's a place of healing. I've turned a portion of the estate into a foundation that helps young women from disadvantaged backgrounds get an education in agriculture and business, so they never have to face the world as defenseless as I once was. As I sit here now, finishing my glass of wine, I feel a sense of peace I haven't known since I was 20 years old. I look at the great oak on the North Ridge, and I know my father is finally resting easy. The shadows have retreated. The crimson on the vines is no longer the color of betrayal. It's the color of a hard-won victory. Thank you for staying with me through this long journey. My story is a reminder that no matter how deep the betrayal or how long the exile, the truth has a way of finding the light. If you are going through your own dark valley right now, don't give up. Build yourself, wait for your moment, and remember, justice may be slow, but it is inevitable. If you enjoyed this story of resilience and revenge, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dive family sagas. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to fight for what was rightfully yours? Until next time, keep your head high and your heart strong. This is Olivia Montgomery, signing off from the heart of Napa Valley.